Hello, you are listening to the C Squared podcast with Holly and Curtis on today. And today we have the wonderful freelance music writer extraordinaire, Kevin Stewart Panko, who has written for pretty much every place going probably by now. So thank you so much, Kevin, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me back and pleasure to meet you. Or
yes, you
digitally
we haven't met before, so this is nice.
So to start, I'm going to introduce the topic. So Kevin is sort of a co-host nowadays. We decided this is like his first episode like this. But anyway, so for today, we decided to take on the hot button topic of premieres, music premieres, specifically single premieres, track premieres, album premieres, video premieres, whatever you want to call them, because there are a lot of people with a lot of opinions about them right now. I saw a post a few months ago on Twitter, but from a label who I do not want to name, who was expressing that they thought that they were on their way out. And I've heard other people say the same thing. So we brought Kevin on because Kevin's probably done like what, 500 premieres in the last.
I've done a bunch of them. Yeah. I mean, it's more a matter of like, I have the space available. People approach me saying, hey, can you put this up there? And if I somewhat, like I was saying, if I at least partially endorse it, if not fully, I will, I'll give people whatever promotional space they want to use, and however they want to use it, put together a post for them and throw it up there. I'm interested. Sorry, I was going to say, I me and how closely I follow Twitter, but I'm interested as to this label that says that they think they're on the way out. Was there like a reasoning or justification for this particular statement?
Yeah, there was. Well, actually, I've heard it from two different labels. So one of it was in a private conversation. So again, I don't want to say who it was. But that the number, that the clicks have gone down basically, and that the number of listens for an exclusive premiere has drastically gone down in the last, I think it was 4 or 5 years or something like that, since like 2018, 2017. Okay. So they gave an example. Now this was a while back because they don't do metal anymore, obviously. So it was, they give an example with Noisy had done a major band,
right?
And they got something like half the streams that they had gotten 2 years prior with the same band.
Okay.
They gave another example as well, but that would, anyways, this was a while back.
So do they take into account that, see, I didn't know if this statement had anything to do with the past 2 years of people just sitting at home doing nothing. So did they take into account 4 years or 4 or 5 years ago, you didn't have as many of the varying outlets to discover this stuff? Like, yeah, you can have a premiere. Yep. And, as people get older, and I'm sure you and anybody who's kind of working in this area, as we all get older, it's like, is it really that important to hear the new whatever band the very first date at this premiere? Like, how different is this song going to be, or this album going to be, if I listen to it next week as opposed to today? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is it really that important to somebody who's in their 30s, 40s, 50s? Like, it's not a race anymore. When I was 16, I was like, oh shit, I got to hear everything first before everybody else, and all my friends can suck it. But yeah, now I'm just like, yeah, whatever. This record's going to be there tomorrow. I can listen to it then. So is it really that big a deal?
Well,
changing demographics and all that kind of shit.
That's probably more of a question for Holly, because she's like 23, 24. She's like half our ages. So let's see what Holly has to say about this.
Brilliant. I'm 25, if you're wondering.
Sorry. Sorry. We're both in our 40s, so like still.
40s.
Oh, you're in your 50s? Oh, oops. Didn't realize that. Sorry, Kevin. Anyways, so you're half the age.
I'm in my late 70s at this point. Sorry, go on, Holly.
No, it's it's fine. I guess the main sort of problem I have is because everything is usually being released on the same day, or there's so many premieres going on the same day, it's kind of impossible to listen to everything anyway. So I think that definitely feeds into what you're saying with the thing of, oh, well, I'll listen to it next week or whatever, because it's just impossible to consume everything. So I think that really doesn't help. And the whole everybody releasing on a Friday with the streaming platforms, I think that possibly doesn't really help either.
And I don't know if that is exclusively something that is the digital world or premieres, whatever, because I always used to have an issue as well, going back to the 80s and 90s and stuff, when an album would get released and labels would be, and I'm sure there's a reasoning behind it, and I've never had it explained to me enough that I can say, okay, that's, solid reasoning and I'm wrong, 100% wrong or whatever. But when labels would talk about first week sales, and if something didn't sell whatever in the first week, they would be all disappointed, and suddenly they would pull back the amount of PR that they would dedicate to whatever the band is or project is and stuff like that. And it's like, I'm always of the thinking that I would rather have my band sell 2,000 copies a week for a year, like every week solidly, as opposed to, oh, we sold 10,000 copies out of the gate and it just kind of disappeared after a couple weeks. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I'd rather have that sustained interest, or whatever you want to call it, as opposed to being a flash in the pan and then suddenly, you're O-Town as opposed to New Kids on the Block. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always that first week sales push because they want to land on the charts, which I think is kind of goofy too. I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it's like, I like your reasoning.
I don't really see the point of charts anymore either. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I feel as though it doesn't mean anything because it's not really helping you promote it necessarily, unless, apart from just saying we're on it. But,
yeah, right. And I mean, charts, I guess I can understand charts because there are people who just kind of look to what's big and popular at the moment. And it's like, if it's on a chart, they're going to check it out more so than digging themselves. Yep. But from, I don't know, just like I said, from my perspective, I'd rather have that sort of sustained thing. And it goes also with tours and tour announcements, because what I noticed, and I've noticed this forever, is a label or PR or whoever will announce a tour, say a tour is running from, what's tomorrow, April 1st to April 30th, right? They announce it 2 or 3 months ahead in February. And once the tour starts, what I always have failed to understand is, why aren't you still promoting the last, 2 or 3 weeks of dates, as opposed to, we made this tour announcement on a couple of, whenever it was first announced, and then we kind of pushed it again a little bit right before it started. But then once it starts, it seems like a lot of time it's just like it gets forgotten.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, I think that's, I know we're kind of getting off the topic of premieres, but I think that just overall sustained interest is something that I think needs to be sort of looked at or pushed a bit harder, as opposed to just blasting your load all at once and leaving. You know what I mean? Like, sorry to use that analogy, but
yeah. Well, you know what, Kevin, just getting to that, you know what, I think it kind of boils back down to that point right there about keeping up the sustained interest and stuff. I think that our original topic, we were going to talk about singles.
Right.
So I think, like, with the strategy that people are now doing with doing this, like the long release build up with the singles and stuff, I think that's doing what you're talking about right there.
Right. And I have to give it up to your friend and mine, John Asher, who whenever he approaches me about wanting to run a premiere, it's like he'll throw down like, okay, I've got these 5 things that can go into any of these 5 dates, either before or after the release. He's got like a video, a single track premiere, the full record, another video, or like a playthrough or something like, and there's like this long, I don't want to call it long game, but there's a bit more to it than just saying, all right, here's a song or here's the record and that's the end of it. So
good idea. Thank you.
He does go from place to place. Like, I don't know if that makes a difference, where it's like, it's kind of hard to follow. And it's also a bit easier to follow if, say, for example, you are working for Nuclear Blast and you have a bigger band as opposed to and a band that doesn't have a label, just because there's generally more interest out there from the public. So it's, people are going to follow Exodus around, and wherever Exodus is, full album stream, track premiere, video, wherever that's going to show up, you're going to have people who are going to go to that site, as opposed to, I saw so-and-so on Decibel's website and they had something else on, Toilet of Hell or whatever, and but I never go to Toilet Hell, or I just, it wasn't enough interest in that band for me to bother to go to check out that other website, or it wasn't on my radar as much because X, Y, and Z. Not to like say that anybody, I'm not singling out anybody for being, less or whatever. I'm just saying that, like when you have a name like, think about it this way. I mean, when Slayer, Metallica, Anthrax, Megadeth post whatever they post, you're going to have people coming from out of the woodwork who who never check out any other band. And suddenly, whatever, you're just going to, I guess you see those numbers go up the way people want them to go up, but the quote unquote diehards will be there consistently. And I mean, I'll stop now.
I'll let Holly speak because I haven't let her ask a question yet.
Well, I guess something that I'd be quite interested to, I don't know, get your thoughts on is, say with the premieres thing, then how it sort of translates onto social media, because obviously the algorithms and everything are complete mess. So most people just don't see things nowadays. So yeah, I kind of feel as though maybe the premiere issue partly links to the fact that people just don't know it's there.
Right. And I think that also when we were talking before we went live, that's something that you guys are probably more privy to than I would be, because you approach X, Y, and Z writer about doing a premiere, or X, Y, and Z website about running something or whatever. Whether or not I see it or whether or not anybody sees it, you guys, I guess, you have like the back end analytics you can look at, and what the like just how effective stuff is. So I would kind of be more interested in hearing how it works for you guys, or what you've seen trend wise, or what's been happening.
So here we're probably going to be moving away from premieres unless it's like Decibel, or maybe like a place like Doomed and Stoned, or like something like that actually does like a feature with it. Okay. Because of the fact that what we've been noticing is, if we put out a premiere somewhere, in most cases, even if it's a big site, a lot of places will not pick it up because they don't want like somebody's sloppy seconds, basically.
Okay.
Right. So that's what we've been noticing as a trend. But if you put it out as a straight news item posted on the band's new YouTube channel, you get more pickups because it's original content. Because a lot of sites, it seems like nowadays, are going like, fuck this, I don't want to link to someone else's stuff.
Is that what's important, or is it just the raw numbers of people listening to whatever you've put up or watching whatever you put up?
Well, this is what it looks like, right? Because usually, like, if you blast out a press release and you say, okay, like, for example, listen to blah blah at Toilet of Hell, like you said, right?
Right.
So what would usually happen is that other sites would pick that up as news and link to it. Right. Nowadays, it's not happening as much. So, but if you put it just as a straight link to the band's YouTube channel, it seems like sites are more prone to pick it up. I don't know why that is. I have no idea, but it just seems to be like a recent thing in the last year, where a premiere will get picked up as news less than a straight, post about their YouTube channel or whatever. It's weird. I don't understand it, but it's been recent.
Okay. So another question I would have, especially for us being in Ontario and you being in the UK, where we've had stricter lockdowns than a lot of other Western countries. Did you guys notice an uptick in the last 2 years of just stuff happening because people were at home and they had nothing else to do, or a lot of people had nothing else to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is interesting, because I know we were speaking to someone the other day who was saying that, another writer who was saying that it seemed really quiet to them, which is odd, because for me, everyone just seems to be at home writing and releasing music here, there, and everywhere, and it just feels so saturated. So yeah, I don't know if that's just a UK thing, if it's just like the particular subgenres, or if it's just I'm surrounded by people that I know who do music at home. It could be any one of those sort of things. But yeah, I feel like there's been an awful lot of album releases and EP releases just across the pandemic, because like you say, people couldn't do anything else. Like all the tours got cancelled and everything. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things. Like, just the pickups has been like a fairly recent thing. So like I do like I know it's a fact because we've been testing it lately just to see what happens, right? So like Decibel always gets good hits on their premieres, like 100% of the time. But like, for example, I'm not going to give site name, but we had a premiere at an extremely large site not that long ago that it just bombed when we sent it out as a press release. Nobody wanted to pick it up, and it was weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, not I don't know who you're talking about.
Oh, you don't, because I don't want to say. I don't want to.
No,
say
no, and I don't want you to tell me who you're talking about. But you know, when you think about who was involved, not necessarily the site. I don't know what the site was, but the band itself. Was the band itself a band that how am I trying to be nice about this? You know, like,
were they known?
Or were they very good, like, you know, quality wise, even just good or recognizable? You know what I'm trying to say without, I'm trying not to be a complete asshole.
No, I know. Yeah, I know. Yes. And
okay.
it was substantially lower streams than not having the premiere.
Okay.
That's yeah. I know it was weird. So it maybe that one was an isolated case, but we've also had it with other things too, where it's like the premiere won't do as good as not having the premiere and just blasting out the press release. So it's a strange thing, but it's been happening lately. So I don't know what to say.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Sometimes I just wonder also, generally speaking, just about saturation.
And it could be that. Yeah, maybe there was too much out that day. Because like, here's a good example. Like you did I think Dust Prophet on the 31st of December. That did fantastic. And that's like, realistically, on New Year's Eve, who would have fucking thought it would do great?
Well, New Year's Eve, but New Year's Eve, like right in the kind of like the midst of the Omicron wave. When
fair. I just always think,
and I don't know, I don't know what it was like, but I remember the weather sucked here when it was fucking cold as shit, dude.
No, I just always think people are going to be going out partying on New Year's Eve. So like, I mean, I had even said to them, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to fucking work very well, but they did fucking great. So
there you go. I don't know, man.
I don't know, but that's an example. Like, that's a smaller band, did fantastic. This other band, bigger. So I don't know what to say about that. But anyways, where were we going with this, Holly?
You were bringing up singles.
I was bringing up this. So now here's something that like, let's just talk about this for a brief minute. Fuck, we only got like 10 minutes left. We've already been blabbing. Singles. Yeah. I know we're all good at this. So singles. So what are your thoughts on that strategy build up there, Kevin? We didn't really cover that too much.
Man, I think, again, going back to, if someone's known, well known, has backing behind them, is gonna, wherever they're gonna place it, that fan base is gonna find it. If you are an unknown band or demo band or whatever you want to call it, it's gonna, I personally think it's gonna be total hit and miss. And I hate to be that guy, but it's like, I've looked at stuff and I'll just be like, I'll see the band photo or I'll look at the logo and, consider my mood that day or how much time I have to sit here and listen to whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to click on this right now. This isn't going to do anything. Or, yeah, this looks interesting. Check it out. And there is no discernible pattern to any of that other than the fact that, hey, you know what? Today I feel like listening, or I feel like looking or checking out this band who are obviously wearing white high tops and acid wash jeans and have bad facial hair and a logo that looks like, an old 80s thrash logo. This could be interesting today.
Yep.
Ask me the next day and I'd be like, fucking have time for that shit. So for me personally, it's a complete hit and miss. I don't know how it works for you guys. Like, if you're just trying to get your bands to the most popular sites, is that like an ongoing battle? Or if you're trying to place it somewhere, like you said, Doomed and Stoned, obviously I'm not going to take my agoraphobic nosebleed tribute band and put and go, hey, Dune and Stone, throw it on there and see what happens. It's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? So are you working more like, I don't know, product placement? Is that the right word? But is that what you're kind of aiming to do too?
Yeah, because like, for example, like obviously we're not going to go after like decibel necessarily for like an industrial. I mean, I guess you could, but I mean, it
depends.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, but I mean, like, you know, you're gonna you want to go to the place that you think is going to be the best fit versus has the biggest audience. Because I mean, you could have a huge audience for the site, and then but if the band's just not right, there's no point in pitching them, even if the band wants you to. It's stupid. Like, I don't know how many times we've had people ask us to do Pitchfork for them, and it's like,
Pitchfork.
What?
Do they still do metal?
I don't think they do anymore, but I'm just giving them as an example, right? Like, because to do metal, it was like black metal, basically. You know, it would be like hard rock band saying, you know, can I get in Pitchfork? And it's like, well, you're not really right for Pitchfork. And then they're like, well, they got a huge. You're like, well, okay, but you don't fit for it. It doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Or metalcore band wanting to get in Pitchfork, for example, like would change, but it's not really the thing. You know what I mean? They're more different crowd, right?
So yeah. So a question I would have for Holly then, being like half our age or whatever, growing up, you know, like you grew up in a different way of consuming and being exposed to music than we did. Now that things are the way they are, but also there's this increased interest and sort of focus on physical product. Has your, like, do you still find yourself doing and exposing or consuming and trying to find music the same ways that you did when you were a teenager, or has it changed as you've gotten more, you know, like dug more into the scene and the world and gotten older and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's definitely changed. I mean, when I was a teenager, I used to like buy Kerrang and Metal Hammer magazine pretty much all the time.
Right.
And that was how I did find a lot of bands, but a lot of it was just YouTube. I don't know, YouTube used to be it seemed easier to just find new music on it. I think again, it's a saturation thing. But that was probably it, YouTube and magazines. And yeah, I just don't really buy physical magazines anymore, partly because like nowhere really sells them anymore is one thing. So I'm usually pretty much just online, and yeah, you miss stuff or algorithms hide things. But then I guess I do discover an awful lot more through social media than perhaps I used to.
Right.
Because I'll just see bands popping up, or on whether it's on Instagram or Twitter and things like that. And,
so I also know that like it used to be that, or not used to be, it still is, obviously, like the focus was on singles and whatever, and not so much like full albums and the album experience. Has that changed for you too? Like, do you still go seeking for singles, or are you now a more mature listener?
This is interesting because I've always been an album person. Like, I've always bought CDs, and I don't know, like I always did that. We have a music store over here called HMV, and like when a new album came out, I always used to go like into the shop and get it on CD and play it at home, and that was like the best thing. But yeah, it's kind of, I still buy some CDs, but just not as many, and they're usually online. And yeah, everything else is probably either streaming services or Bandcamp, stuff like that. But that's, yeah, past few years really. Yeah, I don't know. I like conceptual albums. I like the journey. So the single thing, like if there's a good track, I'll listen to it. But I'm not really chasing singles, I guess.
Okay.
I've changed a little bit. I'm more into the singles nowadays than the full album. Because one problem I've been having recently is a lot of bands are putting out, I know we only got like 5 minutes left, and I'm probably going to go on a rant here, but a lot of bands have been putting out piss poor full albums with only a handful of tracks that are good. Recently, I've noticed. I don't know how you feel about that, Kevin, but there doesn't seem to be as many good full albums, but a lot of filler.
I mean,
depends on the genre, obviously.
Yeah, I guess it also depends on how much you're exposed to it. It's hard for me to say, like, you know, like when you say, you know, so few bands, where I probably get sent or exposed to far more new records than you do.
Probably.
So the proportion's probably the same, like percentage or proportionally the same, but there are still a lot of good records, full records out there. I mean, sometimes, sometimes stuff just is way longer than it needs to be.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, for example, like I'll try to go through the new release list as much as I possibly can each week. I at one point I was good for everything up through January, and then I started slowing down once the February stuff hit. I think I'm like at end of February right now on the new release list for Metal Injection or whatever.
Right.
But just out of all the albums that are there, I would probably say about 60% of them did not need to be as long as they needed to be, or just didn't need to be a full album. That's my own personal take. But again, I know you probably have listened to more than I am, but I do try to keep up with those things. And a lot of those are more mainstream than are Metal Injection too, right? And you get a lot of the more underground stuff on top of it.
I get everything. So
so I might be missing out on a lot of stuff too. But I mean, like, sometimes I'll just be listening to them and be like, I don't know why this band put this fucking album out. Like, there's what was the point of this? Like, it's just so, or it's like good, and then it's like drags on and on and on and on and on. But anyways, your thoughts on that? I know we only got a few minutes, but let's hear the Kevin rant.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, I don't know if I'd go so far as say, why did this band put this out? Because I'm fully of the belief that no matter how terrible your band is, there's somebody out there who it's their favorite band. Like,
that's true.
I was just listening to Gigi Allen today, or at least I was listening to a Gigi Allen cover today, and I'm just like, I just remember Gigi Allen. Like, who the fuck ever listened to Gigi Allen? Like, if Gigi Allen didn't have the whole spectacle of being Gigi Allen around him, would anybody care? Because his music was pretty fucking terrible. I mean, but
I agree.
That's just me. I mean, obviously there are bands out there who want to cover Gigi Allen because either they're fans of it to whatever degree. But anyway, I'm kind of the same thing where it's like, I like both of you. I agree with Holly. I'm big on the journey of the album, like the full length, like, going from, beginning to end, its peaks and valleys and all that. Sometimes I think that younger bands especially don't take the sequence and the structure as much into account as, as somebody like, as an older band, whatever. But I don't know what more to say, man. I mean, it kind of all boils down, as usual, to whether something is just good or bad. And if it's good, you end up listening to it. If it's not, or if you think it's bad, or it's it's striking your bad chord, then you don't listen to it and you give it to. The other day I just offloaded a bunch of CDs to a buddy of mine that I didn't want because it's like, all right, here you go. I mean, see what you like and enjoy. I didn't enjoy them.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. So we got to wrap because I got another thing in about 5 minutes. But to end off, I know we had a lot went on over, and we probably still have a lot more to go. We can talk about this next time in depth further, I guess. But to end off, I want to ask Kevin and you, Holly, name 3 albums that you think recently from this year that were actually good front to back. So I know you got Obscura because you gave that like a 10 out of 10 or something like that. But other than Obscura, name 3 total, even if Obscura's on there.
All right, let me consult my list here. Hang on a second.
Cool. Holly, do you got 3 off the top of your head?
A list.
Kevin's I can't remember. Hang on.
How do you guys not have 3?
It's because
you said front to back. I'm just making sure here. So, all right, let's see. I mean, Obscura came out last year, didn't it? Or did it come out this year?
I thought it was last year. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Whatever. All right, let's see. What do we got here? We got the new. I'm gonna go with the new Undeath record, which I don't even think it's out yet.
Not out yet, but I'm jealous because every single that I've heard so far has been phenomenal.
Yeah, it's an awesome record. Dude, I can do more than 3.
It was 5. Do 5. If you got 5, do 5.
All right, I could say Undeath. I can say the new Wofat record.
Haven't heard that one.
I've never really liked that band, but their new album is fucking awesome. And
Ooh.
I'm actually surprised at how much it blew me away, because every time I've listened to that band in the past, it's kind of been like, whatever, dude. But yeah, this new one, fucking awesome. A band from Chicago called Nequient.
I think yep.
They put out like 3 or 4 records in the last like year and a half, like super bang bang bang, and the new one continues that sort of like string of awesomeness, I guess you say. The new Cave-In record's really good. It's probably hasn't started making the promo rounds yet, but I got a copy a couple weeks ago, sent to me, and it's really I mean, you know, mixes new and old.
Yep.
Or new-ish and old as Cave-In.
Yep.
And there's a couple more in there. They're a bit more obscure, but you know, whatever.
You got one more, Kevin? I think
I got one more. Fuck, I don't know, man. I like the new Billy Bio record for some reason. It was a good hardcore record. Yeah. And the new Relayer, which is dudes from Pelican and Locrian. They're sort of like instrumental post-metal, post-rock, melodic hardcore band.
Nice.
Really good stuff.
Cool. What about you, Holly?
Right, I found my list. So I'm going to go with Author and Punisher.
Cool.
I did like their album. Fit for an Autopsy, because I mean, their past albums have been really cool. And there was one that I did recently. Oh, what was it called? Crown Magneter. That is, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah, I know that one.
Who's a what now?
Yeah.
Crown Magneter.
Yeah, the album's called Alone in Death, I think. Yeah, I think they're quite new a new death metal band. I liked it. Yeah, that was cool.
I'm gonna go with my 3 are gonna be Immolation, Bad Omens, and Ghost.
Oh, Immolation.
Like that one?
Dude, I love it, but yeah.
You do it.
Sure. You know, it's a long story, and it actually kind of has something to do with the shirt. But anyway.
Okay. Good topic of a podcast, maybe. But anyways, we got to end off. So Holly, give us your outro, your famous outro before we end off.
I don't really better this.
It's so famous you can't remember.
it's because I keep changing it every time. I don't know. Stay metal. We'll go with that.